Welcome back to another episode of the EVO 6 STI Killer presented by KoyoRad. Today we start this thing! No, we don't. We still have a couple of things to finish up before we can do that. We are picking up where we left off in the last episode, and that means building an intake for the turbo. But before we do that, we've got to fit up a radiator fan. And this is our stock one. It is not gonna work. It is too big, it is too bulky. So what I've done is gone out and gotten one of these Flexolite S-Blade slim profile fans. This is a 12-inch fan, and it pushes a maximum of 1250 CFM. So this thing is actually gonna move a ton of air, and it is probably as slim as a fan can get. So let's see if I can fit this guy up in here. Once again, it is a game of millimeters. Man, if I only had like this much more space on this side of the turbo here, we wouldn't have any issues. To be completely honest with you, I did cheat the turbo a little bit this way to give me more clearance on the wastegate, and now that has kind of cost me because I can see it's going to be tight to get a rubber coupler onto the inlet on the turbo. The fan is also just a little bit larger than the radiator, and I'm talking about by millimeters. Once again, a ton of tight fitment work, but I think I've got the fan fitting up as it should right now. It's probably as good as it's gonna get. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit it any closer or any slimmer than this. As you guys saw, I had to cut a bunch of that foam off to reduce a little bit of the thickness there, and then I just made these brackets over here to like pull everything nicely against the radiator. I think what I'm gonna do now is, because if you look, the turbo outlet is still gonna be pretty close to the fan. I'm gonna take this cover off here and then see about fitting a coupler on there and an intake. Sorry, Flexolite, I really liked having this on your fan. Gave it a good look. Now it looks more generic, but you know what? It bought me a couple of inches. And guys, I still don't think we are going to be able to get a straight 3-inch coupler on here. As you can see, it is touching. It's not even perfectly on the turbo, which I don't think is the problem, but this is going to be really tight. I can't even fit the intake here. So Vibrant once again to the rescue. Here is a 45. I'm thinking if I cut this down, I should be able to get it in there and clear this. In a previous episode, I was cutting silicone by using just a little bit of green masking tape and then trying to cut it, and that kind of gives you a wobbly cut, not perfect. And then I realized, man, I forgot. What you're supposed to do is put a hose clamp on your coupler and then go around cutting it, and that will give you a perfectly straight cut rather than having it all over the place. So I'm gonna cut this off, and then we can fit this piece up and see how much real estate I have. Yes, look at that. We have ample clearance. That 45 has done the trick. And guys, I was thinking about just building a full custom intake, but then I realized, you know what, this pipe is actually pretty perfect already. It's gonna need paint, but before that, what I can do is figure out how to fit this up over here. I mean, I'm gonna have to cut the coupler back a little bit, make another 45 aluminum piece off of this over here, but I can make this work, and this will simplify my build, which should make for a pretty decent intake setup. That turned out spectacular. Look at that. We have ourselves an intake. I even made a little bracket. I think it sits really, really nicely. It's got plenty of clearance. It's away from heat. I put this thing as far over here as possible. So the next step here is going to be right here, people. You know it. I'm sure some of you are wondering, why is he leaving this here? Well, that's because I'm gonna recirculate. Once again, I can't stress how critical it is to have yourself a stash. Parts of every type and sort, radiator hoses, because look at this. The radiator hose that I ended up finding is a Mishimoto one. And wow, that fits up just like stock. Look at that, it just fits in that spot absolutely perfectly. I almost forgot, guys. This is an AAM dry flow air filter, so it works just like the old ones, but it doesn't actually require any type of oil. So these are pretty fantastic. They flow extremely well, perfect for turbo applications. And now let's move on to something that I did notice, and that is, I totally forgot. I should have hooked up my radiator hose here, because are we gonna have enough room to pass it through here? One of the best brands in the radiator hose business is Samco Sport, and their hoses are actually much better than stock. Obviously, you're gonna wanna replace old cracked hoses, but if you're looking for an excuse as to why to upgrade to these are 4-ply. That means they're going to be able to take a lot more heat than your rubber hoses. They're also much more durable, and more importantly though, they come in a plethora of colors. Yes, people, I went with silver. Originally, when I was building this car, I was like, you know what? I always go with black. I'm gonna try something different. And I went with this like sparkling silver color. Well, why don't you guys post in the comments? Did I choose correctly, or is the silver a little too much? For the record, it is extremely tight down there. The hose is touching the intake, but I mean, like, thankfully, I've got good hoses here. The 4-ply, I don't think is gonna rub through or anything like that. I don't think there's anything else I can do to kind of like cheat this over, so I'm gonna have to live with this. I don't think it's that big a deal. I also ended up ordering Samco Sports, I guess they're called auxiliary hoses, and they include the heater hoses and like some of the throttle body ones. One of the other thing to note is I always end up ordering their hose clamps. As you can see on this side here, they're much stronger. They're stainless steel. They actually offer, I think, a lifetime warranty. And when you're installing these, make sure to tuck your bolt where this thing comes together underneath for a very clean look. Those are just the small little things that I like to do to ensure that these things look nice. I just quickly installed my STM battery mount. It uses a Odyssey, I think it's a P680 battery. So it's a nice slim compact design, and as you can see, their mounting bracket works really well. Wow, this is a big moment. I think the charge pipe system is complete, so is the intake. So wow, what else do we have left to do? What could we possibly need to do? Wait, this thing is this nasty blue color. What are we gonna do here? We are going Wrinkle Plus. All right, I'm sure you guys don't want to watch the paint dry, literally, so there it is. And well, it's not looking 100% perfect right now, and I think that's just because it hasn't dried completely. So I've got about 24 hours of dry time on this wrinkle black paint, and I think it says 48 hours to completely cure. If I actually touch some of this here, it's still soft and wet, so it should look something more like this over here, nice and consistent, but as you can see, lots of cracks in spots, so this is still going to have to take a little bit of time to dry. With the intake officially complete, I think that marks the end of all of the engine bay work in this area. So it's time we move on to the oil cooler. An often overlooked item that can be an engine killer is engine oil temperature. And thankfully the EVO does come with a factory oil cooler. However, given this engine's power output and that we're going to be abusing it hard on the racetrack, I don't think this one is going to be up to snuff. So I have decided to upgrade to Koyo's universal oil cooler. This is a drawn cup heat exchanger, so it's extremely efficient, robust, and lightweight. And this is a 19-row unit. The EVO, the factory one here, is a 9. So I'm essentially doubling our cooling capacity, which is gonna be important. And we're gonna have to fit this up in a tight space, which I'm pretty confident I can make work. However, let me show you the lines that I'm gonna be using, because I've got Vibrant's new Ptfe line, which helps for tight spaces. Here we have Vibrant's Ptfe lined braided race hose in a -8 configuration, and this is their standard race hose with the rubber lining, and as you can see, the difference in size is tremendous, and that to me is one of the biggest advantages to going with the Ptfe is you now have a line that's much smaller. The only real downside to this stuff is it doesn't bend. It's not as malleable as the rubber is. But in a situation like this where I don't have any real tight bends, we're gonna be A-okay. I did also get a bunch of their fittings, like this is the -10 ORB to the -8 Ptfe. So as you can see, it's gonna set up like that. The one thing to note, because this car already had an oil cooler, all I did was took the fittings off of the factory oil cooler, or sorry, the oil cooler housing. I took the factory fittings off and ordered what I think is a, oh, there goes my washer. This is an M8, so this is a metric style fitting to a -8AN. And this will allow me just to screw right into the factory oil cooler housing, and then now I can run the lines off of that. Well, what do you guys think? To me, it's pretty much as OEM as I could have gone. And what I did over here is I use these, this is my first time using these vibrant line separators, and they're really awesome because A, they add a little bit of rigidity, and B, obviously they keep the lines from rubbing, but I'm a big fan of them. I'm gonna start using them a lot more any chance I get. But you can see it's a pretty simplistic setup. That Ptfe lined braided hose I think is spectacular. Like, look at it, got rid of so much of the bulk. This area up here, it is close, but we still have room. I still have to tighten that up, so I knew it was going to be close, but I wanted to make sure that we were in as tight as possible. So as you saw, I hit up the aluminum with a little bit of black paint. The welding went well, as good as my aluminum welding is. So I think we finally have a proper race-ready oil cooler setup. I also quickly fabbed up this small little heat shield for our cam angle sensor. A lot of you mentioned this will get roasted by the manifold, so this is now in place, and I think it should protect it well. Got some DEI heat shield on there, of course. All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap on this episode. Another day has burned by, I can't believe it, but on the bright side, there is almost no major fabrication work left on this car. We are at a point where I think I can start putting everything back together. The intercooler, as you see, is now gone. It is off to NV Auto to be welded up. Let me show you. The intake pipe does not look like it has improved much. So what I'm gonna do with this is I think I'm gonna just kind of shave it in the areas that it has this like nasty wrinkle. So I'm gonna take that stuff off and redo it, and hopefully that'll work. So thank you once again for watching. There is EVO content coming very soon. Make sure to go to our merch store, speed.academy, and check it out because we have a sale going on right now for 20% off. But wait, there is more. Literally last minute item just showed up, EVO 8 AC line, and I am super curious to see how this thing is gonna fit up. Immediately I can see we are going to have to do some modifications. This is not a direct fit up item. First of all, the bolt size, the stud size on this is I think an M12, this is an M10, so I'll have to hog this out, which isn't a big deal. And then this will not fit up into this position here at all. So I'm gonna have to bend this line, I think, just a bit, just tweak this a little bit that way to get that to connect here. But more worrisome is down below. It looks like this would normally be a perfectly fine fit in here. And so bolt onto the AC compressor just like that, and we'd be good. However, I have a dump pipe that this would be hitting right here. So my option is to try to bend this, which I think is gonna be my first try to see how far I can bend this down and without distorting it too much, because it does, I feel like if I can get a decent amount of clearance here, turning this that way will be fine. Or the other thing that I can do is I'm going to cut this off here and then weld the existing EVO 6 hard aluminum line onto this. I think just with this short of a line and trying to bend that kind of radius there, I just don't think we're going to be able to do it, but I'm gonna try anyways here and see what happens. So let's see. Oh, that's hot. Yeah, it is going, but it's I think it's bending up in this area here, and I really need it to bend down in this area here. So maybe I'll try doing this here. Oh yeah, it's going. We have some success. The line is fit up. It is not ideal though. As you can see, it is mega close to the dump pipe right there. So I don't know. I think we'll be okay. I'll put some heat sleeving around it. But if I had to do this all over again, I would most certainly get a custom AC line made, especially for the bottom here. So let's go up top and see what I need to do there. Didn't take much bending to get this guy on here. I think I'm still going to have to tweak it a little bit more outwards this way because I know the rad's got to come in here. And I don't know if you can see this, but the hose is way too long. It's right here. Sorry guys, it's a bit of a mess here with the wires, but this hose is way too long. So what I'm gonna have to do, I think, is take this hose, run it outwards around here, and then back up just to reduce a little bit of the crazy loop going on there. A little more bending, and I think this line is pretty good. It's out of the way. As you can see, it runs downwards over there, so I've got plenty of room for the rad. And on the bottom, I ended up putting a little bit of that DEI heat sleeve around the line, so I think we're gonna be okay. As for the loop, well, there it is. It's a little bit, I mean, it's still a little long, but there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm just gonna zip tie this up a little bit here, and then we should be good to go. So the takeaway from this line is, that was a $26 AC line from Rock Auto, so not an expensive risk. Personally, if you have a custom AC shop around the corner or close to you that you can get a line made, I would go that route because it's kind of sloppy there. I don't love it. If it ends up not working because of the kink or whatever, I'll end up replacing it. But for the most part, I think we're going to be okay with that. I just don't have any AC custom fab shops in this area. So maybe if you know one in the GTA, please, by all means, let me know. I'm in Hamilton and I couldn't find anything here. So, all right, guys, I think that is officially it. We are out. God damn. Contamination. How's that for contamination, son?